So what's going on YouTube? Welcome back to the JevMan316 Pop Culture Reporter channel. I'm your host as always, JevMan316. And if you watch my shorts, you'll know, that sounded funny, that I just went to see Renfield in theaters and I wanted to throw a quick review out there. So this is my review of Renfield. So did it meet my expectations or did it suck? Let's get into the video and you'll find out. Let's go.
Let's eat. Some call me the Dark One, others the Lord of Death. To most, Dracula.
Okay, obviously we're dealing with a little bit more than just narcissism here.
So I'm going to just do a real quick review. And, I just want to give you my feelings right after I've seen it. This is like the next day, but I thought Renfield was really good. The casting of the main two characters was outstanding. Obviously, Renfield and Dracula. That's Nicolas Hoult as Renfield and Nicolas Cage, obviously, as Dracula. But I thought that a lot of the other options as far as the casting were pretty weak. And maybe that was on purpose because they didn't want to overshadow those two characters. But I also thought Awkwafina, who played the basically the sidekick cop to Renfield, was pretty weak. If she was supposed to provide the comic relief, I don't think she did a good enough job. I think maybe she could have been a little bit over top with a comedy, or maybe they should have maybe had her as a romantic interest. I'm not sure, but I just thought the rest of the cast, especially the villains, were really weak. And like I said, probably because they didn't want to overshadow Nicolas Cage. I thought the movie was a great concept. It's pretty much a direct sequel to the original Dracula. They even recreated some amazing scenes from the original movie with using Nick Cage and Nicolas Hoult in the respective their characters from those movies. Awesome. I loved it. It was a great segue into the story. Like I said, I really do think they've done a good job of making this a more up-to-date modernized version of the story, because back then, Renfield probably didn't have any way to get out of the scenario he was in with Dracula. And over time, leading into the world that we're in today, there's people that are more sympathetic, like the support group that he found. People were, willing to help him, even though they didn't understand his situation exactly. But willing, the world has changed, and I think that they did a really good job of integrating, his world into the modern world. So a good modern retelling of the story here. I know a lot of people have complained that this was not an action horror movie or a horror comedy, that they said it was just an action comedy, and I disagree, man. It was some pretty horrific kills in there. And a lot of bloody violence in it. I think it would be hard to not say this was a horror movie, but it's got a lot of comedic elements. Now, like I said, the comedy in this is not in your face as much as like Shaun of the Dead or like a haunted house or whatever the name of those parody movies were, or, Scary Movie. This is more of a fish out of water, really weird scenarios, going into, trying to take a horrific situation and make it, comedic, over the top, as far as the violence in it or whatever, kind of makes it a comedy. But yeah, it's a horror comedy for sure. A lot of things I would think would bother me with the CGI blood. Now, I will say that they did a really good job. The CGI in this is really, as far as it looks, more realistic. So there's a lot of blood splatter. It's over the top violence, and there's going to be no way you could probably do practical effects with a lot of that, but it would have been nice to see a few practical effects in it. But it didn't bother me as much as it has in a lot of other movies. They did a really good job with the CGI. Don't watch all the trailers if you haven't yet. Trailer 1 set up the story, and I think the second one showed a little bit, but that third trailer that I saw basically spoiled almost the whole plot of the movie other than the very end. So I would avoid watching any of the extended trailers or the final trailer for this if you want some surprises. So I was a little upset that I went into this movie, and other than the last maybe 15 minutes, I really wasn't surprised by anything other than some of the fight scenes. Obviously, you got to see extended versions that you only saw clips. And a lot of the violence obviously had to be toned down for the trailer. But other than that, they spoiled a lot in that last trailer. So the one negative about this movie, I'll say, is there wasn't enough Nick Cage. Renfield is the main character. Go into it knowing that. I really wish they had done a better job of maybe extending the story. It's about an hour and a half. I really think they could have added about 15 to 20 minutes more of this movie, and it would have been better if you had more Nick Cage. He's really only got one big fight scene in it, and then at the end, I think the fight scene with his, as far as his involvement in it, it's not there. It's not, wasn't where I wanted. Didn't pack that punch, and there wasn't enough scenes of Nick Cage being Nick Cage. I think they tried to be a little too respectful to the source material. You saw him bubble to the top a little bit when he got irritated with Renfield, but he basically reeled it in really quick. And I really wished, especially at the end in that last fight scene, we could have seen him go full-blown Nick Cage for at least a few minutes. So while I thought Renfield was really good, don't get me wrong, there's a couple things I think it could have changed it that would have made it better. Number one, I said it was fast-paced. It flowed very well. That was mainly through the first couple of acts. I thought the third act, when it got to that, the movie went way too fast. There were some things in the plot that I would have loved seeing more of, like you could have gotten more Nick Cage as Dracula and how he took over the Lobos. I don't want to give anything away there, but I think that relationship, they didn't show a lot about that, and I think it would have really beefed the story up if they could have done that. Also, I think it would have helped if you had tried to establish some other relationships for Renfield. Maybe not an exact love interest, but somebody that he could have been interested in, but his heart was being pulled by the fact that he did his wife and child, such a disservice by the life he chose and led by trying to be, rich and powerful. He ended up losing them in the process. Maybe you could have established somebody that loved or had feelings for Renfield, and then that could have been maybe explored in a sequel. I'll give you an example. There was one character in the movie. The character's name was Carol. It was one of the girls in the support group. And I think the actress that played her is the actress that was one of the main actresses in Terrifier. Her name is Jenna Cannell. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. But I really think, she had a boyfriend that was abusive. So obviously she probably didn't love that boyfriend anymore. Maybe if Renfield helped her get rid of her boyfriend, then she would have maybe started having feelings for him, fell in love with him. Maybe she could have become the sidekick character. I think that Jenna Cannell is a very good actress. I think she does not get as much recognition as she deserves for her part in Terrifier. I think she did a whole lot with very little in that movie, and I think she's a good actress in this. For the little tidbits they give her, you could have expanded her character and maybe had her be the one that went with Renfield on some of these side plot points. I'm not going to spoil it as far as whatever, but that they ended up giving to the character of the cop. I think her name was Quincy. So either way, there's other things you could have done to beef up and expand this plot that I think you could have either included Renfield's side relationships or Dracula beefing up the story between him and the Lobos. One or the other would have given this movie a lot more plot, and it would have made it, to me, wouldn't as felt as rushed. Other than that, there's not a lot of negatives in this movie. I'm going to give this movie an on fire. It's not quite as good as I thought it would be. I'm going to give it a significant thumbs up. I really liked it. Thumbs way up for this one. What did you think? Have you seen it? Let me know in the comments down below. As you always ask you to do, like, comment, subscribe, share, do all the normal YouTube stuff. And I really hope that if you guys went out and saw it, you'll come back here and make some comments and let me know what you thought. So I really appreciate the support you guys have been giving me. And until next time, boys and girls, this has been JeffMan316. I'm your pop culture reporter, and I'm signing out saying you guys be safe out there.
Now, let's eat.